morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from worldwide. I'm Sterling, and it's great to have you back on the channel. This show is being recorded for Sunday, March 5th, 2023. As always, these shows are provided for entertainment purposes only. So all the information I share with you comes directly real time through my guides, angels, extended spiritual counsel, ETs, famous people from history. So for entertainment purposes only. For those of you to reach me, just go to sterlingpsychicmedium.com, look for the Book a Session tab. It's very easy from there. For those that watch the channel all the time, you know that we gather questions from our community board on our YouTube channel for these shows. We do put a request out on Mondays of every week, and then the cutoff is normally about Friday evening for that same week for the show coming up the following Sunday. So thanks for all the participation and all the wonderful questions. My wife does go through them, tries to sort them out in a way that are questions that maybe not been addressed before, or maybe it's a question that comes up a lot. And then I share with you real time the answers to those questions here. So I think today we had something like 63 questions. And before I start going through the countdown of questions, I thought I'd just mention also that we are still running a contest. Every time we reach a new level of 1,000 subscribers, I do select a winner, and that winner then is entitled to a free half-hour session with myself. The way you enter the contest is by placing comments in these shows, starting off with the word love, and that's how we know you want to be in the contest. And then on the show where we actually cross over to the next 1,000 subscribers is actually where we then select the winner. We use a computer app to do that. Randomly selects the winner, and we go from there. I think now we're headed towards 37,000 subscribers, something in that order. So thanks again for all the support of the channel. Wonderful. If you have a moment, just remember to like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, and all those things really help. So I thought we could start. We always try to start off the show with a mediumship, and I always kind of leave the podium open, so to speak, whoever has a message. This morning, Marilyn Monroe came through, and wonderful lady, wonderful woman. And you know what's interesting about Marilyn Monroe that maybe a lot of people don't know or realize is she was a real trailblazer in the industry, in the entertainment industry, and really laid down some very powerful guidelines for women in the industry, just like Lucille Ball did in kind of really running a very large studio and being a trailblazer. So it was wonderful to connect with Marilyn Monroe. As you know, what I like to do is scribe down exactly what they say, then read that back to you here on the show. So I did speak with her this morning, and I'm going to bring that through for you right now. So number 63 in the countdown, does Marilyn Monroe have a message for us? Human strength in life does not lie within the physical world, but in the spiritual world. In my life, I chose a journey that was centered on understanding self-love and embracing my personal power. In later years, my life was focused on empowering women and demonstrating how to accept their power and make the world a better place. Many individuals in life are too concerned about outward appearances and fail to see that internal love, joy, and respect for oneself are the true eternal gifts. The world is going through rough times right now, where everyone must learn to respect others in a way that supports the world and does not seek to tear it down for the sake of control. During my life, I trusted people that I should not have trusted, and this is all part of my journey. However, in the end, I completed my life's plan, just as all of you will in your lifetimes. Women are the stronger sex, but in that way, women must rise up in ways that show the world true love can change the world, not hate and control over human beings and their bodies. I am grateful to the world they valued my contributions, but I want everyone to understand that everything we do in life has positive and negative effects, and it is when we accept our own personal power over all life's events, it is only then that we are truly living a life of honesty and are able to embrace a sense of gratitude. Live life in gratitude. Know that I send each one of you love, compassion, and want the best for humanity. Every time you think of me, please have a smile on your face and know that I wanted the world to be a better, joyful place. You all have inner joy, so embrace it every day you are alive. So a wonderful message from Marilyn Monroe. And I find very often that famous people from history, when they come across and they kind of take the podium, so to speak, and start to speak, it's very much from an enlightened perspective of things they learned in their life and try to move the world forward. So a wonderful message from Marilyn Monroe, and really a true trailblazer in the industry. Okay, 62 in the countdown. Hello, Sterling. Can you ask your guides whether there will be any justice regarding Leonard Leo and his malevolent actions regarding the appointments to the Supreme Court and lower courts and the role he has played in this matter? You know, I don't get direct prosecution, let's say, for Supreme Court appointments, but what I do get is a seizure of assets, like personal assets, and a lot of tax problems and pulling back, nonprofit status from organizations he's involved in, and including churches. It's kind of interesting. So there's a bit of a fallout from all this, but maybe not directly the way people envision. So I guess I don't see him directly being going to any kind of a jury trial based on the Supreme Court interactions, but it's a lot of back-end things going on that impact him personally and then kind of carve out new laws going forward. 61, the countdown. Now that Rupert Murdoch has been deposed and has stated that Fox News host knowingly lied to the public about the 2020 election, will entities associated with Fox, such as advertisers, cable companies, etc., be sued as co-conspirators for fraud as well by other people if Dominion wins? Well, first off, I do see Dominion winning. And it looks to me like their suit's going to be well over $2 billion in winnings. I know it's $1.6 billion suit. I don't see advertisers being sued directly, if that's the question, but I do see a fallout for advertisers, let's say, that aligned with Fox News for entertainment purposes only. So there's a bit of a fallout, a little bit of a cancel culture regarding some advertisers. So that's going to be in effect. Regarding cable companies that carry Fox News, I see laws down the road kind of, creating greater responsibility for cable companies in their carriage of, let's say, shows like Fox News. But this is all going to be kind of a long process here as it works its way through courts and legislation. So, so effect Dominion will win their suit, big effect on Fox. Maybe more of a lesser effect on advertisers with some cancel culture going on there with advertisers, but, long process. But this will have a positive effect overall in getting the truth out to the public. 60 in the countdown. The Texas Attorney General is suing to invalidate last year's federal funding package as unconstitutional because some Congress people voted by proxy. What will happen with this lawsuit? Do you see an end in sight of GOP attorneys filing lawsuits to cripple or undo this administration? Well, I think they're referring to like Ken Paxton, the AG there in Texas. Well, there could be a lot of nonsense going on through the courts, so it's not going to end. And I think it was the question, is we invalidate. I don't see a successful lawsuit in this case, but I do see a lot of nonsense, a lot of chaos going on with a lot of cases brought to court. But this particular case, I think we're asking about the one validate last year's funding. I don't see it being successful in invalidating last year's funding package, no. 59, will Jack Smith's legal move to prevent Pence from claiming privilege work? Well, I mean, Pence's legal moves aren't going to work. I do see him testifying, so Jack Smith will be successful in his pursuit overall legal of getting Pence to testify. And I think the way the question was phrased, will Jack Smith's legal moves? Yeah, so Jack Smith's legal moves will prevent any nonsense from Pence's lawyers, and Pence will eventually testify. 58, some spiritual leaders are saying that a cabal is controlling the world. They run the governments, news sources, courts, etc., all meant to control us with fear. Is this true? Well, I don't want to spray fear, but, unfortunately for, 100 years or so, very wealthy individuals around the world are certainly coordinating and trying to control world governments and control a lot of things, economies, and the way resources get exchanged. So I don't think, cabal is a world group. But I would tell you that, yes, I mean, there's some truth in that. The good news is that democratic forces around the world are fighting this to create greater stability. So, it's kind of a good and bad kind of force equilibrium, if you will. But there's large groups of very wealthy people trying to influence the world and world economies. There are. 57. What will be the outcome of the new Windsor Agreement between Northern Ireland and the European Union? I'm getting whatever this is, it'll reinstate some sort of democratic process or something for Northern Ireland. So we're asking about Northern Ireland, the Windsor Agreement. So something about it, it'll be reinstated and allow for greater trade or something like that with Northern Ireland. So for me, this looks like a positive outcome. Don't have all the details on this, but it looks like it's going to reinstate some sort of a better trade relationship. 56. What's the future of Chat GPT? Will authors become redundant? Well, Chat GPT is an artificial intelligence robot, text robot. It's the first of many. There are going to be hundreds around, but these AI chatbots will have other AI chatbots, if you will. They'll kind of cross-check them. So I think there's a question, what's the future of chatbot? No, authors won't become redundant, still need human creativity. That's interesting. Even some of the schools where, say, students are trying to use a chatbot to write papers, the schools or universities are using chatbots to cross-check the content to see if, in fact, a chat bot created it, so they can kind of catch people that are cheating. But no, authors will still be very important. Human creativity will still always be a very important element in humanity and required. 55. Mississippi has moved to create a separate, unelected court for all criminal matters. Will this happen? If so, will it last and spread to other states? It looks like it's going to move ahead we're asking Mississippi. Looks like it's going to move ahead there due to some focus. I'm going to call it more predominantly white districts or something there, but I don't see it spreading through a lot of other states. So there's something going on there with Mississippi for the short run. Short run is a couple of years, maybe not even that long. But I don't see that spreading, whatever this is, to other states. Not in a big way. Let's put it that way, my team is saying. 54. Who will win the Wisconsin Supreme Court seat? Republican Dan Kelly or Democrat Janet Protasiewicz? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name. Looks to me like the Democrat's going to win. I know it's a very hard-fought contest, but my team is definitely pushing me to say it looks like the Democrat's going to win. 53. Hi, Sterling. Does living a healthy lifestyle affect our exit point? In other words, do we live longer if we exercise, eat right, or does that even matter? Well, you probably heard me say before, your principal exit point never really changes. However, your quality of life and how well you move along your life path, all those things are affected by good, healthy living. So there's definitely a correlation, but my team's never seen it kind of changing your exit point overall. 52. I would be interested in you and your guide's take on the Havana Syndrome. The recent intelligence review found the Havana Syndrome was not caused by energy weapon or foreign adversary. Is this finding consistent with what your guides say? If not, why would the intelligence agency say otherwise? Well, my team has always maintained these are direct energy weapons, DEWs. They are very high energy microwave weapons that are portable. They can be dismantled and assembled. In fact, at one time, my team months ago was saying that a lot of the weapons are coming in through international airports, but kind of being disguised as athletic equipment, like gym equipment. Now, I think the person was asking this question was saying, well, why would the government say otherwise? Truthfully, for entertainment purposes only, governments don't always have all the answers. They're trying to ease fears. I also think that this is a bit of a sidestep but let's say in a good way by the government. It's almost like getting the individuals, the adversaries, the other nations that are behind this, in order to maybe to relax a little bit, saying, well, the U.S. government said they don't know, it's not energy weapons, and maybe getting these other nations to lower their guard, make it easier to get them. So these are directed energy weapons. My team is always telling me it's going to get solved. It's going to get resolved within a year to 2 years here. Good information coming out on this. 51. Hello, Sterling. In the late 1970s, while playing netball in my primary school ground in Australia, I witnessed a small UFO hovering possibly 45 feet above me. It appeared to be made from one piece of silver metal, no rivets or joints, and had points projecting from it. The teacher said it was space junk and told us to keep playing. It then disappeared. Sterling, was this a ET UFO, and did they make contact with the group? Yes, absolutely. It appears this was an ET ship, but this comes across to me because of the size. It looks like it was a small size. It could have been a drone. There are extraterrestrial controlled drones that do kind of surveying. So I don't like anybody got abducted, but it does look like a drone to me. 50. Looks like January 13, 2018, or in that date, Hawaii residents were scared by an incoming ballistic missile text that went out. It was blamed on human error in sending the message. Is that the case, or did we avert disaster and they just didn't tell us? I get this was simply human error and a failure in the overall back-end technology of the system. So sometimes if you have human error, you can get out in front of the human error and kind of make a change and stop a text. But this looks like overall human error. This was not like a world disaster that was diverted. 49. You have mentioned that you consult your team of guides and angels in a conference room style setting. Just curious, what do they look like? Well, it's not always a conference room style setting, but I use that scenario to help people kind of understand how all this works. But when they show themselves, they look very much like you would think human beings look, or angels look, or guides look, or there's about a dozen different versions of extraterrestrials. They look very similar to many of the images that you see. So they don't look like necessarily large beams of light or anything like nature. They actually take on a somewhat human appearance. Now, they can look any way they want, but it's just a comfortable way to kind of deal with all of them. If there's a large group of them I'm communicating with, but they look very similar to images you've seen in humans and extraterrestrials and angels and guides, so very similar. 48, do you and your guides see a change in government in Mexico in 2024? Well, I mean, unfortunately, it looks like the current ruling party is still going to be there in 2024. So maybe the election coming up in 2024, but looks like the same ruling party. 47, dear Sterling, Elon Musk has been the king of misinformation, MAGA propaganda, anti-union defender, portraying authoritarian corporate labor practices, and a fierce support of China communist policies. In fact, his connections to China are a security issue that allows China to use the Starlink satellite system. My question is, will he ever face any consequences for this through the Justice Department? No, unfortunately, I don't see any consequences through the DOJ. But what I do see is kind of shifting of support of his companies. Elon is going out to a lot of international money sources and nations and countries to satisfy funding requirements. So I don't see any Department of Justice problems for him in that area. But I do see him kind of faltering a bit in acceptance of his companies. They're telling me there may be some restrictions in satellite communications that affect the U.S. So one area like Starlink that may come under very severe scrutiny. I do see that. 46. Is there an energy shift that's supposed to happen on March 22nd, 2023? I don't know a lot about this, but I think a lot of astrologists are saying this. I get there's just a normal progression and a shift of energy as the Earth is moving forward. So my team's not calling out a major shift in March, this month of 2023. It is a progression of a lot of people getting more and more enlightened. So I do see an ongoing progression. 45, will Prince Andrew write a tell-all book like he's threatening to do so if he doesn't get his status back in the royal family? I do see a book being produced by Prince Andrew. Looks like the release date will be early 2024. 44, Sterling, can you and your guides tell us if Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry had an extraterrestrial encounter that provided him with the idea for Star Trek? No, I don't see an ET encounter, but I do see, like a lot of creative individuals, he channeled spirit and guides and angels and even ETs very easily. So he may not have known that, but when you're highly creative and you open up that channel, that same innovation, that imagination channel that opens actually brings through a lot of information. So I don't see a direct ET encounter per se, but certainly was highly creative and had that channel free flowing. 43, hi Sterling and team. Lately, I've seen several news reports of scientists who are trying to reverse the aging process. Will they succeed in this? And if they succeed, when will these treatments be available and could be affordable by the middle class? Well, this will all be made available through gene editing technology for not something like 15 years here. So this is not right around the corner, but gene editing technology will open up the gateway towards reversing aging. And remember, I talked about this before. The aging process has to do with not only external appearance, but also internal, organ functions. So gene editing within 15 years will start to become available in a way that will help, maintain one's health and help to start to reverse the aging process, but not in a way. I should add, my team's asking me to add this. It's not that if you were 60 years old, you're going to reverse yourself to 30 years old. What you may do is slow down the aging process for a lot of years and hold you at 50 or back you up a little bit. So that essentially extends your life. And my team was saying over the next 15 to 20 years here, humanity will have a life extension that could be anywhere from 10 to 30 years on top of what people are living now. So all this is part of the overall equation of how it's all coming together. 42, hi Sterling and team. I've heard many people on YouTube say that China is using TikTok to spy on the US. First, is this really true? And if it is, why hasn't the US government done anything to stop it? So for entertainment purposes only, unfortunately, this app has compromised a lot of mobile devices. And what I mean by that is it really gives provides external threats to individuals' databases on their mobile devices, including contact databases. So this is true. The government's aware of this. In fact, many governments are aware of it. In fact, that's why you're seeing even the US right now, the federal government is moving to remove TikTok from a lot of devices. And you'll see a lot of commercial companies, even private companies moving forward. So the answer to the question is, it's a problem. Compromised information on a lot of mobile devices, and many governments are moving forward to kind of correct this or bolster the situation so it becomes less of a problem. 41, Sterling, for a couple of years, I'd wake up in the night and see beautiful geometric patterns on my window. Wonder if these were messages, past life images, or just from my imagination. So if I interpret this person's question correctly, they're seeing the images mostly on a window. I find that that's more of a physical effect or an optical effect coming through a window. If this person, for example, had seen this standing in free space, like lying in their bed and seeing all these images kind of in free space in the room, many times that is angelic or spiritual in nature. And if you see figures rolling by and symbols, many times that's being very close to the entrance to the Akashic records. But for this individual, it looks like it's more or less a physical effect through the window. So maybe a little bit of a creative imagination the way you're seeing it. Okay, 40 in the countdown. Hi, Sterling. Robert Schwartz, a remote viewing researcher, has interviewed thousands about what the world looks like at 2050 and 2060. Consensus comments show that a significant cultural change happens between 2040 and 2046 and takes until 2060 to adjust. What exactly is that happens between 2040 and 2045? Well, my team has always said that the biggest changes are going on during this 3-decade period we're in, meaning 2020 to 2050. So it's a progressive change that comes about through a lot of new technology that advances humanity, extraterrestrial involvement, higher energetic level of a lot of people. The veil gets thinner to the other side. Many more people are more or less psychic mediums, communicate with heaven, which is another dimension. But I don't see this as a one-off type of a very narrow range. But for me, my team's always said it's a progression over a 3-decade period. So I guess my team interprets maybe what Robert Schwartz is talking about here a little differently. I think it was named Robert Schwartz, right? Yeah. 39. Are there any environments on Earth right now that house astonishing or undiscovered creatures? Yes, in the deepest areas of the ocean, areas that have never been explored to date, and in the North Pole and the South Pole, like there's some very interesting things around Antarctica. Yeah, so they're talking, North Pole, South Pole, and the deepest areas of the oceans. Very true. 38. Does sound healing using crystal bowls or sound frequency help your body heal from disease and your cells reproduce in a healthy way? Yes. It depends on the exact frequency that's used and the person that's receiving it, and also the energy or the magnitude of the energy behind it, being, frequency and then the strength of the sound that's being used. But it's very true that, our bodies are very sensitive to frequency and sound healing. It's very true. And there's a lot of science behind this. 37. Is Tesla's investment in Mexico going to be good for transitioning the country towards green energy? Well, yes, in the long run, I've always said people have asked about Mexico's economy. Certainly, a lot of drug cartels involved there, but I've always said that it was green technology and a green economy that's going to help move Mexico forward. So certainly, part of Tesla's investments are part of that, and going to be very helpful. Absolutely. 36. What are the consequences of China's influence and investment in Mexico? Well, so this is interesting. It kind of almost parlays with the last question. China is making major investments for energy resources in Mexico, along with inexpensive labor. So there's that force on the economy in Mexico. So China is looks like they're kind of leveraging off of resources in Mexico in a number of ways. Was the person but the long term? What are the consequences of China's influence? Well, it's a problem. So it's a major economic force, but it'll be counterbalanced by other types of green technology from other countries coming into Mexico. So there's a balance that will be created, but China will have a very strong force and effect on Mexico's economy, and does right now. 35. If life on Earth is role play, agreed to by soul family members, does the human attachment end at transition? Well, we're all part of very large, extended spiritual families, thousands of members. Once you cross over, you actually are still part of that same family. So, yes, in some respects, we're down here on Earth with a given set of lessons and life path blueprint that we agree to. When you cross over, you do regain that. You're part of that same extended spiritual family. So I think the way the person asks is role play, agreed to by soul family members. Well, it's kind of all one and the same. You come down with a certain group of spiritual members, you agree to come down. They might play mother, father, sibling, adoptive parents, could be bosses or soulmates. And then when you cross over, you regain that same spiritual family. You rejoin it, but in the larger sense. 34. Hello, Sterling. My question is about the Ascended Masters. Is that the end of incarnation for them because they have evolved to the higher realm? And my second question is, do all souls strive to become Ascended Masters? No, it's not the end for the evolution of Ascended Masters. Everybody is constantly evolving in the universe. Even Ascended Masters are. And no, it's not the desire of all souls to become Ascended Masters. Very specific kind of specialization or profession, if you will. So not all souls strive to do that. And ascended masters still continue to grow energetically on the other side. And they do that by either traveling around other areas, other galaxies, other planetary systems, coming back and reincarnating. So it's an ongoing process. And, it really has an element of it's infinite in its nature. So it's all part of the universe. The universe is infinite. 33. Well, I know COVID is moving into an endemic phase. Will scientists ever find a way to eradicate these cells that wreak havoc on our organs and immune systems? Yes, I mean, science will prevail. A lot of advanced science coming up due to extraterrestrials and understanding viruses in nature and how to fight them off. By and large, extraterrestrial populations are much healthier than human populations. They figure out advanced ways to not only guard against a lot of diseases, but how to treat them very quickly. So it'll always be kind of an ongoing struggle with science here on Earth. But really, over the next number of decades, science is going to get a leading edge on a lot of these viruses. It's very true. 32, is it better to let an animal die naturally with medication to help their pain, or to help them pass by using euthanasia? It's actually all part of the human lesson. So I know the person's asking the question about the animal, but animals are part of the angelic realm. They're all down here teaching us lessons. And so it's actually the decision of whether it's pain type medicine or euthanasia. This is all part of the human experience that you're engaging with your loving animal. So it's interesting, I know a lot of people ask these questions from the animal perspective. Remember, the animal, your child, your connection with the animal, they're down here teaching you a lesson. So it's how you navigate through that. You're understanding that there is no birth, there is no death, but it's all part of a more or less kind of an angelic lesson the animals are helping you achieve. 31. Will there ever be a technology or other means to help humans learn a subject quickly, such as a foreign language or calculus? And will it be available to the public before 2050? Yes, it will be available, but it's more like after 2050 and by 2060, my team's telling me. And a lot of these types of technologies are already being developed now. What I mean by that is there's a lot of science research right now going on biomedical electrical connections with the human body. So how to connect the human body with digital information. In fact, even Elon Musk is doing research in these areas. But it's all going to come to pass by about the year 2060, when a lot of that interconnection, a digital connection with biotechnology will be available. It'll come in different forms. And then once that linkage is made, kind of that interface, then it'll be easy to kind of move information into humankind. I know this all sounds kind of advanced, but my team is at least giving you a peek into the future. 30. For years now, my husband has gotten extreme chills every month or so. They last a few seconds, then go away. He thinks it's a ghost walking right through him, but I suspect it may have something more to do with me. Why? It always happens when he's right next to me and we are talking about something. It never happens when he's not around me. Is this my energy or something else? Well, absolutely. For the woman that asked this question, these are absolutely your guides and angels resonating around you. You have a very powerful connection. And I see this with a lot of people. Even my wife has this kind of a connection where when she brings a lot of her angels and guides, I'll feel the ripple effect right next to me. I even feel a little bit right now, which is kind of funny, a little cold chill. But this is characteristic of people that are highly evolved, can communicate very easily with their guides and angels. And when they bring that energetic force around them, there's an overflow effect of people around them. So for me, my team's saying that's what your husband's feeling. 29. Hi, Sterling. I recently heard that ETs can manipulate our weather on Earth. Is this true? It is true, but they only manipulate weather when it has something to do with a catastrophic event on Earth. And I mean something that would essentially try to erase humanity. So this is all part of how extraterrestrial groups look over Earth. Earth is a very special place, and they do have the ability to affect major storms if they're going to take out a large part of humanity. This is a larger discussion, but they do have the ability to affect weather. 28. as there's no hell, why do some people that have near-death experiences return saying they saw hell? What do they see if there is no hell? Well, it's very different for every person. You're right, there is no hell. But very often when people come back with some sort of description of that kind of a location, I see it as not being a full near-death experience. So they didn't go very far into the light, so to speak. The other is sometimes there's medications involved that can create that kind of hallucinogenic effect. But anybody that really starts to move forward with their birth angels and guided into the other side, they don't feel that. So typically it has something to do, a lot of times, with medication. Oh, and they're also reminding my team, sometimes people have extreme fears of the other side. Those fears will help to create that imagery. But if they were to experience the entire death experience, they'd find out that there is no hell. So a little different for everybody that has an NDE, but for the people that are coming back saying that, my team's saying that's characteristic of what's happening. 27. Hi, Sterling. What can you tell us about people who are constantly getting sick or injured? Is there something spiritual going on or something just bad luck? Well, this is a little broader discussion, but I'll categorize this in two different categories. If someone's getting hurt all the time, there may be a message from their angels and guides to say either be more careful, or if let's say somebody's getting injured all the time, let's say it's in a sport, part of their life path may be to create something that creates less injury. So they may be on a path to help medical science. The other thing I'll tell you is that some individuals that go through extreme injury in life or extreme health problems, many times they're older souls and they came down to help humanity. So it may be something that doctors learn or other people through their injuries. But let's say for the first case, if somebody's getting injured all the time, it's either a warning from angels and guides, be more careful, or if it's happening significantly a lot of the time, then it could also be something on their life path. They're supposed to create something, or it's part of their life path to help others get less injured. In the case of sports, for example. So kind of a multifaceted answer there, depending on the frequency of injury and the magnitude. 26. Hi, Sterling and team. What are these things called shadow figures? I saw one lurking behind the wall of my neighbor's home. It was all black with no facial features and would disappear as it approached the landscape lighting, only to later reappear, seeming out of nowhere. It looked so real at first, I thought it was a peeping Tom. What was it? Well, these look to me from this description, these are spiritual apparitions of individuals on the other side that couldn't do it, or it takes a little bit of skill to be a full apparition. Now, so sometimes shadow figures are spirits that either tied to that property or maybe tied to family members there, but they look dark or like shadow figures because they don't have the skill to fully provide a full-scale apparition. It takes a lot of energy and practice. The other side discussion here is that sometimes if people see shadow people, but with a dark hat, call them the Hat Men, they're actually warning of events coming up. So they actually around kind of warn people. Nothing evil there, but they warn. I see a lot of Hat Men sometimes appear around military bases with things going on. So a little bit of a broader answer here, whoever asked this question, but appears nothing to be worried about here. But these were spiritual spirits that didn't have the ability or skill to provide a full-scale apparition. 25. Sterling, can you give any information on extraterrestrial shape-shifting? Is this trait in their DNA? I heard that we are inventing something to affect our DNA for human shape-shifting. Will we as humans ever have that ability? Well, right. Extraterrestrials have the ability based on their DNA and its ability to be able to actually move cellular structure. Humans right now on Earth cannot do that. They'll eventually develop the ability within about 100 years. Now, what's interesting is there's a lot of different races of extraterrestrial species. Some create what's called an optical illusion. So they can kind of change their DNA or cell structure to create an optical illusion. So it's like you're perceiving them as a different shape, even though they may not be. There are others that can fully change their shape completely. Those are the more advanced species. But within about 100 years, human beings will have some of this technology. And interesting, some of this shape-shifting technology will actually aid in the healing in certain artifacts people have. For example, losing a limb, being able to regrow a limb. So some of the technology that's evolved in shape-shifting will actually also aid human beings in even recreating things like limbs. That's all coming. 24, hi Sterling, will there be a shift towards hybrid work again? A lot of companies are forcing people back to 5 days a week in the office, and the expectation of work like in 2019. Will this change? Well, I do see a large portion of companies moving towards a 4-day work week. You see a lot of major corporations already doing this. They're getting much better efficiency out of people. So I think this person is asking about a hybrid work week. I see a lot of that coming over the next few years here. So remote work combined with in-person work, but then also a 4-day work week coming. Looks like the largest companies right now are starting to adopt it. Then you'll see some government agencies. The government agencies are already doing that. Yeah, so it's all coming, whoever asked this question. Evolution towards hybrid work again very shortly, along with even more 4-day work weeks altogether. 23, looks like the Svalbard Global Seed Vault in Scandinavia, sorry if I mispronounced that, holds millions of seeds from all over the world. With climate change battering down crops and non-native invasive species destroying plants, will the world ever have to consider opening the vault to restart old species of plants? For example, the Dutch elm tree and American chestnut has all but disappeared. Can we save our plants? It looks to me like within 2 decades, they are going to start using seeds from the vault to restore some plant species that are in danger or lost. So they're going to start utilizing the vault. Won't have to utilize or deplete it completely, but within about a 2-decade period here, they're going to start using it much more substantially. I do see that. My teams also remind me that much of that will also be focused on saving like food crops. So there's something there with that too. 22, hello Sterling, will extraterrestrial spacecraft ever use the Spaceport America facility in southern New Mexico as a landing location? Could this happen in the next 5 to 10 years? I think that's in Las Cruces, New Mexico. It doesn't look like ETs are going to use it. ETs already have a lot of bases worldwide, including those in Alaska and Antarctica. But it does look like companies like Virgin Galactic, which Richard Branson's behind. Looks like private companies will be using it, but it does not look like extraterrestrials, no. Okay, 21 the countdown. Sterling, what is the outlook for progress on tinnitus? Looks like slow progress for the next few years, but it looks like within 3 years, developments out of Europe. And it looks like it's something to do with spinal geometry and nerve bundles that go into the head, bottom of the skull. So it looks like something promising within 3 years here out of Europe. And it might be Sweden here, from what I can tell. It's interesting. I know a lot of people suffer from it. And I send love and light out to a lot of people suffering from tinnitus. I know it's terrible. But looks like good things coming up here very shortly. 20. The Alex Murdaugh housekeeper that died suddenly in his home by falling down the stairs, was that foul play? Yes. Absolutely foul play. Yes. 19. Will Jack Smith obtain proof of who the January 6th pipe bomber was? Yes, by the end of this year. 18. What does your team of guides say about the uncorrupted body of Saint Bernadette Soubirous? Is it Soubirous? Soubirous. Her body was exhumed 3 times and analyzed by different doctors during many years. The last time was 1925 and still couldn't explain this phenomenon. Was she an alien or a true divine miracle? I know. I guess she wasn't an alien or an ET, but it's interesting. It looks like there was extraterrestrial technology being used to experiment on her, which is interesting. So, we talk about anti-aging technology, the things coming in the future for humanity. There's something here with some testing being done with ET technology, but it's interesting. I'm also being told the ETs pulled the technology back from humanity because they felt it would be too disruptive. That's interesting, right? I guess if people never decomposed or always stay looking the same, I think it would change a lot of the way humans handle death. Interesting. So the ETs had the technology, they pulled it back for the time being. But this particular saint was one of the first people they used it on. They're also telling me it was all like a half a dozen other people in the world, even going back to Egyptian times, they used this technology on. 17, Sterling and team. What happens when you lose time? I was walking with a friend in the woods near, is it Bashakal Reservoir, New York? Is it Bashakal Reservoir, New York, in the 1990s? The deeper we walked along the path, we saw what looked like a dark tunnel. The closer we got, there were gnarled roots came out of the earth surrounding our feet. All of a sudden, hundreds of sparrows were flying all around us in front of our face, just hovering there. We stopped and looked at one another, and then we heard a large clap sound on the ground. We could feel it vibrate through our feet. We turned around to run back out of the woods, and we noticed that our feet were off the ground and we could not move. The next thing we knew, we were back at our cars where they were parked, and it was hours later. Do you see what happened to us? Yeah, my team's actually saying you walk through a portal. Now, there are many portals on Earth, but they'll produce this kind of effect. Portals also they open and close down, but you walk through a portal. There's a huge one on Skinwalker Ranch that's hundreds of feet, even thousands of feet in the sky. But you walk through a portal. So very uncomfortable experience, but certainly one that you'll never forget. That's for sure. Okay, 60 in the countdown. Hi, Sterling. Do you and your guide see another major world pandemic in our near future? If yes, will it be handled differently by the world leaders? Nothing for another 100 years in terms of a world pandemic, but yes, it'll be handled very differently. There'll be technology, scientific technology will allow us to fight it much better. But don't see another worldwide pandemic. It shuts down the world for another 100 years. 15, Sterling, will Canadian government intervene in making college and university more affordable for our future graduates? Yes, but it looks like it's a 5-year process here for me for the government or Canadian government and all the colleges that they're either controlling or managing for them to kind of work this through, because it looks like a big economic effect or effect on the economy. So the colleges will become more affordable. It's like a 5-year process here, but it's due to kind of the economy getting in better shape. Then funding goes then towards the colleges, if you will. So it's coming, but it's not coming, they're telling me, real fast. 14, I'd love to hear more about Canada's future now that they banned TikTok from Canada due to suspect Chinese spying on government phones. Well, it's come a bit of we talked about TikTok earlier in the show, but looks like it'll eventually be banned in Canada from a lot of government, commercial, and private and educational institutions. So there is a wave coming here of reassessing that application. That's true. 13, hi Sterling, when you talk about extraterrestrials, you depict them as very technologically advanced. Do they start off this way, or were the once primitive? Are they once primitive as humans once, or are they still, or something else? Well, they evolved through millions of years, so they didn't start off that advanced, but through millions of years of life and living and traversing the universe and galaxies, they gain that knowledge. So it's seriously, every time there's a major interaction of ETs with humanity, big jumps ahead. If you look at timelines of advancements in technology, it's very interesting. But they did not start off with all that advanced knowledge, but it grew out of millions of years. 12, Hello, Sterling and team. The New Zealand government has had a base at Antarctica since 1957. Can your guide see if the New Zealand government is aware of the extraterrestrial base in Antarctica? If so, does the New Zealand government have any interaction with the ETs? The answer to all of the questions is a definitive yes. Yes to all the questions asked there. Absolutely. By the way, not unlike New Zealand government, many of the world governments, including U.S., Russia, Canadian, all around the world, Asia, all have interaction with extraterrestrials. All the governments do. Why does, 11 here, why does the Mothman shapeshift into a terrifying form? Is it done on purpose? What is the Mothman's natural appearance? Well, that shapeshifting, scary appearance is to dissuade a lot of people from getting involved with that extraterrestrial group. That's really purely it's a defense mechanism, like a lot of animals have a defense mechanism. So they feel like by having that scary appearance, people will stay away, and it does work. Absolutely. Also, I think they're asking the question, what do they look like normally? They have more of a reptilian appearance when they don't shapeshift. 10. Hi, Sterling. I'm aware that animals see spirits. However, when one of my cats died, my other cat hid under the bed for days in grief and knew his best friend passed. If animals see spirit, why did he grieve so much? Well, the first cat did not come back right away. So it took days or whatever this was. Once the cat came back, your remaining cat acknowledged that. So, there's some timing in the universe, but the first cat, the cat that was left in your house understands the spiritual nature of the world, but missed that form of the first cat. Within a couple of days, the cat came back. 9. About 15 years ago, about a 3-foot-high person appeared in my living room from a glowing like fireball, basketball size. It had skin color like someone from South Asia or South America, a mohawk-type longish hair spiked up. Of course, I was alarmed. The person sent me love telepathically. Its smiling lips were closed. His teeth were all like canines. It disappeared in a ball and went backwards. Who was he? Why did he visit? This comes across to me from the information here, more of a hallucination. It does not appear to be a spiritual experience. Because my team's saying if it was extraterrestrial, it would have been a different kind of a form. It doesn't look like an ancient spirit. Looks like more of a hallucination. Whoever asked the question, if you want to provide more details, next week we can try to address that. But my team's saying it's a bit of a hallucination here for some reason. 8. China has a mysterious egg-laying mountain that spews out stone eggs. The egg-laying cliff in sand is it Huzhou province. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Huizhou, Huzhou province. How do these rocks grow? My team's saying they grow by natural forces every number of decades. So this is nothing mysterious or spiritual, just natural erosion or natural forces create this, something unique about that area of the world. And that these eggs don't appear any faster than many decades. Interesting. I'm not aware of it. I'm not familiar with it. That's what they're telling me. 7. Hello, Sterling. In 1975, I lost a friend, Johnny, in the Wounded Knee incident. He was indigenous and getting ready to testify in the court hearings. He lost his life the day before he was scheduled to testify for what was determined to be a suicide. His family and friends say it was not a suicide. He had planned to enter law school to become a Native American rights lawyer. Did he actually take his own life, or was he deliberately silenced before the hearings? Definitely not suicide. He definitely fully intended to try to stay on his life path. It was part of his life path to depart. I get him sending a lot of love and light to you and to a lot of people still left here, and he is helping from the other side. So definitely not a suicide. He wants to make that clear, but he is helping from the other side. Looks like a wonderful human being to me. Really wonderful. Just got to step forward right now. Very wonderful guy. His name was Johnny. Okay. 6. What is the outlook for Governor DeSantis and his educational rulings? Well, unfortunately, a lot of the rulings are going to stand going forward, but looks like they get completely derailed as we get closer to the 2024 election. So something happening with a big disruption there that then reverses a lot of these rulings. So a lot of nonsense in the schools is going to be going on here as a result of DeSantis. But looks like my team's telling me as we get closer to 2024, it's going to get more normalized. So some sort of rational behavior and government starts coming back again. 5, will nanotechnology in diagnosing cancer be successful? If successful, when will be available to the public? Well, nanotechnology is, very micro technology. It's being used right now. My team's saying within 10 years, it'll be commercialized and be very helpful for diagnosing cancer. This could be cancer in types of urine samples or something here. But will be commercialized, much lower cost, about a 10-year period. So they're telling me tests are already ongoing right now, so progress is being made. But yes, different forms of nanotechnology examining different types of cancer will be available and fully commercialized within 10 years. 4, will there be a significant reduction in homelessness in the next 10 years? If so, how will it happen? Yes, major developments in low-cost housing modules, greater emphasis on healthcare, and looks like we'll say emotional or psychiatric healthcare, and also medical healthcare. Big funding coming from new tax laws that are then moving these funding out to homeless care. So I get a lot of housing modules and new healthcare. So I'm not familiar with the entirety of the problem, but looks like maybe a lot of people suffering from different types of PTSD or drug abuse. So a big healthcare component coming up. But it looks like they're going to make progress. They're starting to make progress, real progress here. I know Los Angeles is trying to make a big effort, but it looks like worldwide, over a decade here, it's going to look very, very different in terms of homelessness, and then healthcare for homelessness, and then very efficient types of housing modules. Interesting. So new technology coming up for fully self-contained housing modules. Very interesting. Okay, number 3 in the countdown. My sister Diane sometimes gets a location flash in her mind for no reason. It will be someplace she has been. Is something happening right there and right then when she gets these flashes? Well, I'm not a doctor, but I do get this at the beginning of what I call clairvoyant abilities. Now, we're all born psychic mediums. Looks like your sister is leaning towards a wonderful gift of clairvoyance. Now become able to see. So sometimes flashing of images, if you then decode them as to what they mean, it could be premonitions, that could be helpful information for somebody. Looks to me like, again, not a doctor, but for this individual, it could be the very beginning of a nice clairvoyant gift. So now number 2 and number 1 in the countdown. I always take notes prior to the show, so I'll read those back to you. So number 2 in the countdown. Do you see anything coming up this week? A sharp decline in COVID deaths owing to new healthcare strategies worldwide. So some new healthcare strategies coming up to really put significant decline in COVID deaths. New government assistance programs for pandemic relief in the forms of cash payments across a lot of states and a lot of places around the world. So new money kind of coming into the economies to help with pandemic relief and supply chain problems. Then new drugs to help treat depression. Something that a new drug coming up here that's been in trials and helping with depression. And then last but not least, new weapons shipments coming into Ukraine, new major weapons, advanced weapons shipments. And number 1 in the countdown, do you have anything your guides want to share? You are the star of your show. So go out and become the star you know you are. The world is waiting for your contributions and your performance. So on that note, we'll conclude the show being recorded for Sunday, March 5th, 2023. As always, if you need to reach me, go to sterlingpsychicmedium.com, look for the Book a Session tab. Next week, I'll be doing a show with Linda G, the Comanche Psychic, on her channel. As always, I'm going to leave you with a lot of goodwill and tremendous love to you and your families. Take care. I'll see you again very soon.